There's two works that will be presented in the docking station, most probably. Maybe there's more than one, maybe more than two. But there's two main ideas. One is a video that I already finished and that I did a few months ago, and it's called A Brief History of Jimmy Johnson's Legacy. And the piece is basically the documentation of a reenactment of a specific scene from a film that happens in a museum, and that is, they call it the Louvre Splint, from the movie called Band of Outsiders in English, from Jean-Luc Godard. And the idea is to take this a specific scene of the film and sort of try to redo it in a different museum. So the video it's the documentation of this splint where three friends of mine, I asked them to run in this museum in Mexico. When you see the video, you also sort of make a super quick tour of this museum, which is hung from Novo Hispanic times, from the first academic painters in Mexico. Basically the first attempts of Mexicans and Spanish coming from Europe to Mexico, and it's the first idea of the way we understand art from the Occidental point of view. So when you see these people running, you see them starting from there all the way into modern times. The video that it's going to be shown here started as an interest in looking at how films depicted museums and how those films dealt with it and dealt with those gestures. So basically, I started to think about starting to look for other films, not only the Godard film, which started everything, but also other films that possibly could make a context for that work. And I surprisingly found quite a lot of them, and some of them in a very interesting way. So when you see the video, you'll see all these other films where these actions are depicted. About the second piece, which is a series of actions, and it's more so, at the end it will be, you will see studies for different projects. Some of the studies are for projects that I already did, so our studies made after the piece is done, and some of them for other projects that I haven't done. But what interests me in this specific piece is that those actions are being made in the former Stedelijk, or the building where it stopped being the Stedelijk and it will be the Stedelijk in a few years. So I was interested also in talking about this moment and sort of rethinking how much that space could also help for those studies to become something more meaningful. I was interested in rethinking my own practice and re-putting those works into a circulation in a different layer, which is not a defined work, not a defined statement, but more as something that happens more so in an everyday. The studio work, in a way, it also becomes like a small show of my work, in a way, because it's a collection of works that I plan to do or that I already made. If you see this one piece, it will be like a small museum show. So it will be like almost like a little retrospective of my state of mind, let's say. And I think that's interesting in relation to having this show in a museum, which is not a retrospective show, but in a way it will expand, and it's not going to be just one contained piece, and it's not only, I mean, it is a project, but it also could, if you have the imagination to think about all these sketches and all those stories as a bigger thing, then probably the show could also be expanded into a almost ambitious retrospective or something like this.